My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. Oh, good.
We just ate at my favorite restaurant in the whole world.
Yes.
It makes me smile.
Yes, it does.
It does. Close my eyes so I could focus on the flavor.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Blue.
Well, if I'm ever in a bad mood, you can take me there.
That's right. Blue Nile in the river market.
Kansas City.
Ethiopian food.
That's right. Yum, yum. So, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Well, I know that, but tell us more.
Anything in particular that you're curious about?
That's a deflection.
It could be, but it wasn't.
It was. No, you're just trying to get to it. So let's get to it. You have talked a lot about matching people's energy and gave, a specific example tonight in a conversation with somebody else. I don't know that you want to share that one, but I think it would be helpful for us to get into that and learn more about how to do it and why would you do that and what's it all about. So can you tell us more?
Oh my. Okay, let's see. Where would I want to start? So what I think about in regards to energy interactions between people, man, there's so much that comes to mind. Some people probably think about interactions in terms of energy. I don't know how common it is, but at some point in the past, I had an awareness about energy. Well, and it's interesting because I like see energy in my mind, but not visually, not like colors or things like that. But it is how I think about relationship. So at some point in the past, I remember having a conversation with someone about energy and them like pushing back on my thoughts about it. And I don't remember what the conversation was. I just remember that my response, or part of my response, was we all have some awareness of energy in relationship, because when we walk into a room, we make choices about who to engage with or who not to engage with. And I don't believe that it's all based off someone's appearance, height, hair color, clothing, whatever. I don't think it's that simple. I think when we have interactions where the hair on the back of our neck stands up, like I think that it's something that we have some level of awareness. Maybe we just don't talk about it very often. So what I believe was, when I was younger, I felt like I feel like the only way I could get attention was if my energy was bigger than other people's. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, like the physical part. But I think even that I know that I was loud. Like I talked loud. I needed to really be heard. And I remember when I worked, my first corporate job was at a law firm. And I remember one of the paralegals coming up to me and like mirroring that back to me. And
in a passive aggressive way, or
no, I think she was really direct. Yeah. I think it was like Pam or Nancy, these two different, women that I worked with, who one was very direct, and Nancy was she was direct, but she was very nice about it. And I think it was Pam. And I just remember, probably because I respected her, she worked so hard. I really value that. I think it was the first time I heard it, and it wasn't something that I deflected. So I became more aware of myself. I was probably 19 when that conversation happened. And I worked on being much more intentional in communication, but it was really more about how loud my voice was initially. And then, I would get feedback from people about how they experienced me. And it always surprised me. Like like somebody that I went to high school with said something 4 or 5 years after high school, like, you had it all together. And I was like, I didn't either. I don't think I was any more together than anybody else. But it did make me think, why would people think that? Because I didn't feel that way. And so there were just a lot of instances where I feel like people mirrored back to me things that I later then would call like my energy. And so I could look back and I could see how if I matched someone's energy like in a negative way, like if they were angry and I matched that energy with anger, that it didn't go anywhere that was helpful, didn't resolve anything, didn't create connection. And there was some avoidance that happened initially while I was trying to like figure this piece out. And then just over time, with that awareness and intentionality, there were different opportunities for me to like practice in a big way. And some of it, I feel like, came with learning to practice meditation and presence, but it didn't take as much effort to figure out what was the best energy to respond to in a particular situation. So I just kept practicing, staying aware of myself, aware of others, watching how they responded to me. I still think when I talk about something I'm really passionate about, that I think it can be harder for me to regulate, like my excitement energy. And not everybody responds well to excitement energy. I think for some people it can be overwhelming. And so I'm not always like in control of it, but I think that I've practiced enough that I handle or that I respond in situations well, so that whatever the intended outcome is, we're able to get there. And so I think about this experience I had with this woman who I didn't know, but she knew of me. And do you remember this story?
Nope.
And
not yet.
Yeah, not yet. And
no, tell us.
And she was really angry at me. And she approached me, and I had 2 of my kids with me. And she was yelling at me, screaming at me, saying a lot of things that weren't true about me. And I just stood there and maintained eye contact, and I didn't engage. And she went on and on and on. I don't know how long, 5 minutes, I don't know. But she had a lot of energy she was releasing. And I was aware of that. And for me, there was some level of awareness that engaging with her was only going to not be helpful. And so I didn't. And
why?
It's interesting because Luke asked me when we got to the car, he was like, why didn't you defend yourself? Why didn't you this? Why didn't you that? And, my response to him was, because there wasn't anything for me to defend. And he said, but it wasn't true. And I said, it doesn't matter that what she said wasn't true. I didn't need to defend myself. I said, imagine what my energy would be like right now if I had engaged. I would be distracted. We would definitely not be having this conversation. I'd probably be angry. I'd probably be thinking about things I wish I had said or regretting saying things that I would have said. And so, for me, it just felt like truly there was no point. It didn't make sense to me to engage, to match her energy, to respond to her energy. For me, it was just keeping my energy, I don't know, calm, grounded, I don't know, clear, steadfast. I mean, that's what I think about when I go back to that place. And then, so I think about there's those situations.
Yeah. There's hold on just a second.
Yeah.
That's a really high, intensity situation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's very clear what the energy is.
Yeah.
And do you remember? I mean, a lot of times our body reacts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what was your body reaction, and how is it that you got yourself in the space where you could just stand there facing the onslaught versus matching that energy?
Those are really great questions.
Thanks.
It's interesting because I saw her coming. And even though I hadn't met her, I knew who she was. And, it's interesting because I can go back to that and I can think, it's kind of, so I remember thinking, this has nothing to do with you. I remember thinking that has nothing to do with you. And then I think there was, like a part of me that truly could just see her humanity and her need for control and her need to release. And I knew I wasn't going to absorb it, I guess. Does that make sense?
Well, it just is something that, we would all like to say that's how we can handle it. But there's just like this to me, and it may not be the same for everybody else, but there's this flash second, where my mind is anticipating what it will look and feel like to choose that energy versus
the defended, which energy?
The responsive energy versus the calm, nothing you say is going to faze me.
Okay.
I think, I mean, for me, and it's quick, it's just like a millisecond where my mind advances down the road of how that would feel.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment, it would feel good or justified or whatever, versus, reeling that back in and going down the other path, which is how good will it feel to just maintain calm.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you say that, it does make me feel emotion like in my throat. And my immediate thought when you said that was, but I already know what that feels like. And it doesn't ever feel good to me. Ever. It doesn't make me feel powerful. It doesn't make me feel in control. It doesn't make me feel good or helpful or kind. It makes me feel, that reaction makes me feel weak. It makes me feel out of control. It makes me feel cruel. And so, so for me, it's a very different, and maybe because I was so angry when I was younger, and reactive and violent. Yeah. I don't ever want to be that person again, unless I needed to save somebody's life by having that part come out.
What's going on? It takes me back just to a conversation, that I've had with, my own therapist about what I feel like when I'm in an elevator these days, and, I so could identify with the Incredible Hulk piece, and I don't know that it's really any different for me than that character. It's not who he wants to be. It's not who he is, right? But there's something that, can come out when it's just too much. And so I don't know if the Incredible Hulk ever figured that out, but I did. And I don't want to go back. Ever. And you know what it's like for me now, when, like, this situation that we've been dealing with my oldest son, in his, one of the classes, that he took in college. And I am almost always like in a teaching mode. I really just want to respond in situations in a way that I feel like provides somebody information so that they can be more thoughtful and intentional about their choice. And I'm trying to increase awareness. And, when I chose to, step in, and not to change the outcome for him, because he asked me to not, take away his power by asking for something for him. And I said, I understand. And the abuse of power that's happening isn't just about you. It's about, all of these other people that are being impacted beside you. And so I did, I took all of the skill, that I've developed over the years about responding. And I did a really nice job. It was a really nice written communication that was very discerning and fact filled, just data. And I just, said, all I ask is that you take a review of your processes and procedures to make sure that students aren't harmed.
Never mentioned my child's name. We don't have the same last name. Never gave all that specific data. But I was very intentional about the energy that I had when I wrote it to stay in that level energy, right? Like I would be in person, just maintaining eye contact, giving information. And then the response that I got back, which was really inappropriate, then brought up a different energy. And I told you when I read the response email, it like hit my heart. And that piece for me was, like, how do I get clear now?
Were you feeling hokey?
I wasn't feeling hokey. I was feeling disappointed, sad. What else was I feeling? Yeah, I think disappointed and sad. Disappointed that this person with so much authority would be so dismissive and cavalier. That piece, I felt that. So disappointment that they didn't step up. And then sad because I don't think I knew what my next step was. But I slowed down, I processed, I waited. That was a Tuesday night.
Right.
And I didn't write the response until Sunday.
How did you know it was time to do it?
How did I know it was time?
That you were ready.
Yeah.
To do it with discernment instead of
reaction.
Or passion.
Yeah. So I thought quite a bit about it. I can imagine in my mind like that passive aggressive piece coming out. And I can imagine their response. And for me, it's like, I don't want to be passive aggressive. I just want to be direct. And so I'm going through like these scenarios in my mind and I'm imagining their response. I'm also, this may sound really funny, but this is what I do. I always imagine when I'm doing this, that if I was in front of a judge and I was having to defend my character or my words, could I say, yeah, I'm good with that,
Or would you be shuffling your feet and
right, going to shame or whatever, like I want to be like fully in my adult, if that makes sense. And so when I feel like I've worked through all of the emotional dysregulation responses, like in my mind, then I've
I'm laughing because then you hand it to me and I filled in those spots for you.
Right. Yes, which I took
back out.
Well, not all of it. I mean, it wasn't.
Well, I didn't go crazy.
No. That one particular part that you said, I'm not sure. And then I was like, that's
it was
not
personal.
It. Yeah. So
just protective of your son.
Yeah.
But I didn't go through your process.
Right. And so for me,
that was the first time of me really seeing everything that you'd had to say. And I was like,
right. Having the whole context of everything.
Yeah. And hadn't read what he had written, that sort of thing. But still, it's just a good reminder.
Yeah. So I play them all out emotionally first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I get clear. Who do I want to be? It's really like an integrity thing.
Yeah.
But the teaching piece doesn't stop. That continues. And so I think about it from, like what energy do I want to have? What energy do I feel like is best in this situation? And again, it's all practice. I mean, it's not like one day I woke up and I was like, oh, I know how to do this now. I mean, I'm still practicing all the time.
Sure.
I have to, some of the work that would.
I've seen the whole.
Yeah. So I think about, the disagreement we had on our trip, and like those parts, of me when I'm sitting there, when we were having the follow-up conversation the next day, and I'm sitting there and you're still hurting. And in that particular instance, I was able to hold on to myself better and get to that place where even though I was hurting too and feeling very sad, I was able to say, this is what I'm trying to do. Regardless of how messy it is, what I want is connection with you. And so that's practice too. We've talked about that, all of that abandonment fear that I believe we all have, trying to hold on to ourselves, when that feels threatened, real or imagined, doesn't matter. So I'm always thinking about things in terms of energy. And when I feel passionate about something, and I don't mean like, passionate about the podcast, I mean like I can see something very clearly. And I know I need to have a hard conversation with someone, knowing that if I come at them with like big energy, because it feels big, that I'm really just overwhelming them. I'm not allowing their body space to process, to take it in. I feel like, if I come at it big, then their body just goes into protection mode. And so they can't even really hear me. And so I work on regulating my energy in those situations. I use touch. Like if I have something difficult to say and I'm standing next to someone, I might touch their upper shoulder, like our upper arm, actually, like demonstrating like care or safety. And so I also work on matching energy to my body, if that makes sense. Like I don't think they have to be congruent, but I'm trying to make them congruent.
Tell us more. I don't know what you're saying.
So I don't think that just going and touching someone on their upper arm necessarily indicates safety.
It could be very threatening.
It could be very threatening.
If you're holding all the tension and all that in your...
Right. So it's not so, right. Yeah, so it's not so simple. It really is like an indication of care as well, or concern or closeness. I think when we were in that restaurant the other night, and remember those people came in right behind us and nobody was seating anybody. I mean, there were tables, but they were all full and there was literally no employee and no employee. And they're like, "Are you in line?" And then I was like, "Okay, we just need to go find someplace else." And so when she said that to me, I just put my hand on her upper arm and I said, "It's okay. We're going to go find someplace else to eat," instead of like going into well, nobody's here and nobody has been here and all the tables are full and we don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? Like just creating connection and softness instead of complaining or whatever about the situation. So I'm trying to think, like, I think about it from our eyes, like what's the energy that comes through our eyes? Do you think about energy like coming from your eyes?
I notice people's eyes. I don't know that I thought about it in those terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the person we did the pre-interview with today.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. So I think about it not in regards to like, because sometimes you'll ask me, you'll say, did you see the color? Remember that guy that was our waiter at that restaurant? Like off, you know which one I'm talking about? Boru, remember?
Yeah.
And you were like, did you see his eyes? And I was like, yeah. And you were like, they were so green or something. And I was like, oh, I didn't notice that. I don't notice the color of people's eyes. I notice the energy coming out of their eyes. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So
let me ask you this.
Yes.
When the energy is not overt, clear, because someone is raging or sad but you have a history, like that person that just doesn't like you, maybe puts you down every time you're around, that sort of thing. But they're not doing it yet. You're back in contact. How do you read that energy and how do you deal with it?
Well, I'm trying to make sure I know what you're asking. Could you give me a little bit more information?
Yeah, I mean, let's say it's the mother-in-law who's always despised you.
The mother-in-law who's always despised you. Okay.
Who isn't overt.
Okay.
But
it's subtle.
it's there. There's always some little thing.
Okay.
And you were just never good enough for her baby.
Okay.
What do you do with that?
What do I do with that?
Let's say she hasn't pulled out the knife yet.
Oh, gosh, I think this is a really it's really common. But, it all depends on the situation. I think I was giving you an example of a client. We were working on that situation. And so I had more context, right, than what we're talking about right now. But I was talking to her about energy. And so how her mother-in-law always makes sure that she has the most energy and she's taking energy from people. And I wish I could remember all the details of it. But basically, I had her stand up and I said, the next time you walk into your mother-in-law's house, in your greeting, of a hug, the appropriate hug, I want you to look her in the eyes and say genuinely, it's so good to see you. And then kiss her on the cheek. And she was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, serious. I want you to match her energy, but I want you to do it with kindness. And it has to come from that. It's not a passive aggressive piece.
Right. It has to be real.
It has to be real. So, practicing it, that it was a powerful experience for her and she did it, and she, came back and she's like, I did it, and that it went well and it didn't fix everything because I don't think her mother-in-law is interested in having connection with her, but it helped her feel empowered.
Sure.
That she didn't always need to take whatever energy her mother-in-law felt like throwing her way. And so for me, it would be specific, to the situation, trusting that the person that I'm in conversation with is sharing enough information. I've been curious enough to come up with something to try in regards to that person's energy. But matching it to me doesn't always mean like anger to anger. I'm still wanting people to respond from a place of seeing their humanity, even if they're not healthy, and even if they're not a healthy person, right? Because ultimately, for me, it's about you having integrity for yourself. It doesn't mean the interaction is going to go well. But do you feel like you have more integrity? So, was there something else in that example?
No, I was just interested, in trying to get guidance, I guess, and when, that approach is appropriate. And it's kind of like matching the vibration, but the opposite direction cancels it out. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But we're going to move forward. Let me ask you about this.
Yeah.
Have you ever you said that this was an example of somebody taking energy. And I used to, my old self, before I started doing my work, would call I knew it. It would be like, that's a soul vampire, but that's not, it's a judgmental, unkind way of approaching it. And I don't know that it's always malevolent. Sometimes it is. Malevolence is like sucking the energy up from the room, but it may not even be intentional, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a need.
Yeah.
One, how do you spot it when it's happening? And two, what do you do about it when you realize it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So, sure. Yes, I think there are people that do pull energy from other people. And I think some do have some level of awareness of it. And I think there are people that don't. And I like how you said it, like it is a deep need that they have. And I don't think they know that they're doing it. But to me, in my mind, the woundedness is so significant. And so for me, what happens is I get sleepy, just very, very tired. And so what I do, what I've learned to do is do things to help stimulate, my body. If I'm in my space and that happens, I have scents around that I like in lotions. So like in my office, I have a pumpkin spice and a Oregon mint and, just different things, that I can use to help like reground my body. If I was out somewhere and I really felt like I needed to be active in taking care of myself as opposed to just being aware of it and, rubbing my clothing or something, I would stand with both feet firmly on the ground and probably, I'm trying to think where my arms would be. They might be crossed in front of me. Just, again, being really grounded. That's what I think about when I'm around people who pull other people's energy. What are you thinking about that?
Well, I recently, I've had it happen before, but I didn't really, I knew because I had it labeled, but, that was a stepmother. Okay. So, and I didn't have any capacity to contemplate it really.
Sure.
Other than, I need to be out of this. But more recently, I knew sitting in conversation with people that I was just without explanation. There wasn't because sometimes I'll have that reaction if I eat food that I shouldn't.
Oh, sure.
Potatoes for me, I'm out, like way out, just like can't think hardly. And that's what was going on. We're in the middle of conversation and I can hardly keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
And I'm fighting so hard so it's not obvious and I'm about to just pass out.
Yeah.
I knew what was happening.
Yeah.
I didn't know which person in the group it was coming from.
Sure.
But I, started visualizing a shield, like a dome.
Okay.
But it didn't, that didn't fix it for me.
Okay.
And so just interested in ways, and I don't, you may not have an answer for it. Maybe I should have gone to the bathroom and put cold water on my face,
I was just going to say.
To like get the vagus nerve going.
Stimulated. Yeah.
I could have, you can pat your chest with your fist, gently. Yeah. And I've read lots of different, tapping. I could have done some of that.
Yeah.
You remember the article I shared with you about vagus nerve stimulation, the different methods you can use.
Yes.
And that probably would have been a really good idea. And then to set an intention that I was going to preserve my, a zone around myself.
Yeah.
But just trying to throw up the shield in the midst of it was not working for me.
Sure. No, I think your idea about just standing up, go in the bathroom, splash some cold water on your face, washcloth on the back of your neck, whatever, just telling your body like it's okay. We got this, right? Setting a more direct intention.
Sure.
Yeah. But probably moving into action, I think, would be the most effective thing, which the vagus nerve stimulation article techniques would be moving into action.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's a fascinating experience when it happens. And I don't know that most people are aware. It's just something that I learned really in the therapy practice. Just over the years, I would think, why am I so tired? And it wasn't after I had had Chinese for lunch.
Yeah. Lots of rice.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that for sure.
Rice is your nemesis. Yeah. Potatoes are mine.
Yeah. I don't typically eat rice because it makes me sleepy. And so I would know like, okay, well, I didn't just eat rice an hour ago. So there's something else going on here. So a lot of opportunity, to practice. And again, it's, and actually interestingly for me, that isn't the response I have to someone who is an overt energy puller. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? This is a more covert energy puller, right? Meaning they are not really aware what they're doing. If someone knows what they're doing, my body has a very different response to that.
What is it?
Yeah. High alert, actually, goes on to high alert.
And then what?
Oh, it's interesting. I would guess I probably get pretty still, is what I would guess, just to make sure that I'm taking in all of the data that I need to make sure that I am safe and protected. And it's not necessarily fear that I feel. I just noticed that, that I go, that would be my alert.
And do you think being an alert is what shields you from it?
Oh, probably. It probably makes me feel like I have a greater sense of control in the situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, it's fascinating that we're these energy beings.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Did I think I shared that with you, like this recent research about this like network in our brain. And we have this essentially like a fiber optic network in our brain. And like, I think article was like 100th of the size of a human hair. And they literally function like apertures in a camera. And so, just this awareness that our brain transmits this light energy, which is fascinating. And so, yeah.
Beings of light.
Yeah. So we are fascinating beings for sure.
Yeah. I think, it's not always possible, I'm growing, but moving towards, turning towards kindness or non-reactiveness can get you so much further along the appropriate exchange of energy with other people. Having the confidence that you don't need to match whatever there is coming.
Yeah. And you can if you want to. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that have studied it, and there's probably lots of books written on it. That is not an area that I've stepped into from like a training perspective. Well, I guess I can't say that. I did do a Reiki training, and that was interesting. I've done some other kind of like, I don't know, level 1 type energy trainings, but nothing that I've stepped into in any depth. I actually have bought some books that I hope one day I'll read about
we both have big
energy.
stacks of books.
We do. Oh my gosh. I know there's a name for that, though I don't know what what it is at the moment.
What, osmosis? If you just sleep with it under your pillow?
No, I mean people who collect books.
Oh.
There's a name.
Bibliophile or something
like that. Yeah. All the books we're going to read one day. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. But no, I've bought subtle energy books. And so I know it's a thing. I just haven't studied subtle energy. I'm just aware of my own experience and I'm aware of others. And so I think I'm always reading it, valuing it. Some of it was probably how I was born, and some of it, I'm sure, is the result of what I have experienced.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Sometimes we want our energy to be big for the big presentation or when I walk out and in front of the jury, those sorts of things. And it can be a fine line between being, opening, even if it's kind energy, right?
Yeah.
Opening others and versus, it's a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a couple trials back, I'd been out of the courtroom for a while after COVID, that sort of stuff. And I kept making eye contact with this juror. And I wasn't trying to be intimidating at all. I was just making eye contact. And at the end of the trial, when the verdict came back, he completely intentionally just scowled at me. It was a good reminder, just, small doses.
Yeah.
Regardless of your intent, because it can be interpreted lots of different ways or misinterpreted. So just fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be really interesting at this point to get into the study of subtle energy. I think the hard part probably is learning how to value it accurately.
Sure.
What is it that I'm picking up?
Well, that's the expertise in things, right?
Yeah, skill.
And the first step is always seeing.
Yeah.
And then the question is, if you're going to work with it, then I think you should do it responsibly, as responsibly as you can, and teach yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That brings to mind the experience you had last month.
Yeah.
Or someone, she read your energy probably in a way that I never experienced someone read it so clearly and so accurately. But what she did with it was so irresponsible and inappropriate.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that to me, we talked about it after you had that experience, that it was, really overwhelming, but she was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She had skill.
Yeah.
It was not mature, but it was skill.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like I've got, a big energy.
Yeah.
But man, phew.
Yeah. No, it was fascinating. Is getting past the impact that it had on you, the experience, it made me, very curious. And I'm not at that point in my life where I'm going to step into that study yet, but I was like, whew, that was fascinating. Yeah, I think learning to practice being responsible, having conversations with people, like even what you were talking about earlier, having, your circle of people that, are working towards that life of integrity. They understand it's messy and complex and all the, but they really are putting effort into it. That we can have conversation with those people and they're going to be thoughtful and intentional in their response, not just matching our energy like, yeah, whatever, she's a bitch or whatever, you know what I mean? Because it's so easy to find,
Sure.
those people who just, you want to be bitchy about something, they'll join your energy, right? as opposed to someone who you're struggling and they can hold that space and then they can ask you, what do you need from me right now? Right? Do you need me to just match it? Right? And we're just going to go so we can vent and get it out. Or do you need a balance? What conversation do we need to have? What are you thinking?
I like it when you got my back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those sons of bitches. Maybe just a little. That's my younger self.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I think in Gottman, they call that coming down hard on your side.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there you go. It's a good thing.
It can be. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What?
Nothing.
Oh, that is not the true. Can you speak the true right now or no?
Oh, I was thinking about our drive home from the restaurant and, we pull up to the stop sign. The other car is like 10 yards back from the signs that I've already stopped. So I'm going and they go at the same time and pull on through the stop sign and then they're honking and I'm already halfway through the intersection and, I was like, fuck off.
Yeah.
You do all this work and out comes the fuck off. I mean, I didn't freak out and lean out the window, flipping them off or anything, but your reaction was, they don't have to fuck off. You remember we drive another block and I stop at the next stop sign and said, yes, they do.
Yes, I do remember.
Because I said so.
Yeah.
I didn't need you to have my back on that one. I mean, I didn't. The true is I didn't like being corrected, in the moment. But it wasn't an instance where, I got your back. Not on that one. Anyway, that's the true of what I was thinking.
We're so complex.
We are.
Yeah.
No, and it would be a great example. Whoever was driving, I didn't look in there,
I don't know.
to know if it was a man or a woman. But in any event, they're honking.
Yeah.
But we were matching, whether I matched them or they matched me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
On the ugly scale.
Right. Right.
Do as I say, not as I do. That's not true. Yeah. Always keep improving. Yeah. I mean, I saw it. I was able to make light of it a block later. Big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next time, I'll do better.
Well, and to me, it's just about not wanting it to stick to us, right? Not carrying it.
Right.
Yeah. In the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Right.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, just this conversation about energy is really, for me, just what I want for the people listening is just to have it higher in our consciousness, so that we're thinking about it, paying attention to it, practicing, being more aware, being more intentional. My guess is,
right.
Yeah, some people probably feel it more directly in their body. Some people probably see it. There's probably a lot of different ways that we experience energy in relationship. This is just mine, right? It's more like a knowing than those other ways. Like I said, when I see it in my mind, it isn't like colors and things like that. It's just I don't know even how to describe it really. Yeah. Do you know what it's like for you? Like, when you experience other people's energy.
I could feel it.
You feel it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Positively, negatively, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think so. I think I feel it. I don't see a color or anything like that. I'm highly intuitive too, but I think I feel that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, what I would say is we're all going to not do it perfectly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're doing the best we can in the moment. And to me, it's just trending more towards conscious, intentional choice of how we want to walk in the world. So, but I also think just becoming aware, just watching that interplay. It's not all just what it appears to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're that complex.
Yeah, we are. We're amazing beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
What an adventure.
Yeah. It is.
Thanks for sharing, babe. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.